Entomology 322 debate.
Howdy, my name is Paul McMurray, and today I'm going to be defending the black horsefly, scientifically known as Tabanus atratus.
Howdy, my name is Ty Malachek. The scientific name of my insect is Chrysops discalis. The insect's common name is the deerfly.
My opening statement for the black horsefly, or Tabanus atratus. The black horsefly is one of the true flies, or the dipterans, and falls under the family Tabanidae, deer and horseflies. As with all dipterans, the black horsefly is a holometabolous insect and thus undergoes complete metamorphosis, characterized by stages of changes in the actual morphology of the insect. They start their life as an egg, hatch as a larvae known as a maggot in the case of flies, would transition into a silken cocoon and emerge as winged adults. The black horsefly is a member of the genus Tabanus, the horseflies, and is infamous for its painful bite. The female adult fly's mouthparts differ from the males in that the female requires a blood meal to produce viable eggs, making the man ontogynous, and thus will take the blood meals through a biting mechanism that is often reported to be extremely painful. The painful bite is a result of morphological adaptations to the stylets of the female adult fly's mouthparts. The stylets are long and sclerotized, which result in sharp appendages that pierce the host's skin and allow the female to sponge the pooling blood. The black horsefly gets its name from its characteristically black coloration. The black horsefly can mechanically transfer bacteria such as anthrax and the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. This is important because if presented with these bacterium, then this can become a real problem, as those diseases are often, in the case of anthrax, is immediately lethal, and in the case of Lyme disease, is normally presented by ticks and would draw our attention away from the disease.
My opening statement. Deer flies belong to the family Tabanidae. Adults range in size from about a quarter of an inch long to a third of an inch long. Their wings are clear with dark bands or patches, and their bodies are gray or light brown with some yellow and black striping. Deerfly larvae develop in the mud and aquatic muck that occurs along the edges of bodies of water, such as ponds. Female flies lay batches of 100 to 800 eggs on vegetation that stands over water. Larvae hatch and fall below, where they feed on decaying organic matter or small organisms in the environment. Deerflies generally have a 1-year life cycle. Female deerflies are persistent blood feeders, while the males feed on pollen and nectar from plants. The female deerfly bite involves 2 pairs of mouthpart blades that the fly uses to cut the skin. Females use knife-like mandibles and maxillae to make a cross-shaped incision, and then lap up the blood. Their bites can be painful, but many bites are not noticed at the time, especially if the victim is distracted. Deerflies feed on a variety of mammals, including humans, pets, livestock, and deer. Deerfly females will continue to return to a host and bite repeatedly if their feeding behavior is interrupted for some reason. For this reason, the deerfly tends to be more of a nuisance of society than anything. They are irritating and bothersome, and other than having a bite that hurts, pose little threat to society. The deerfly is similar in size and appearance to the common housefly, but the distinguishing characteristic of a deerfly is large, patterned gold or green eyes, and their antennae are usually longer than their head.
Okay, so given our opening statements, I want to present my first rebuttal to you, Lewis. More or less, our flies both bite humans, as well as bovine and equine mammals, such that it's not real. It's kind of a misnomer that both of them are named horse and deer flies when they both would bite the same animal. My question to you is, what are your host's preferences, and where do they prefer to bite?
My response to you, Paul: the deer fly prefers to attack a moving host, which is probably why it continues to return to the same host. Feeding is interrupted. This is also why the deer fly is so bothersome, because it keeps returning to the same host. Furthermore, deer flies target high on the host body, such as in head or neck. You can prevent them from biting you by staying away from blue colors. Some people have found that while working out in the yard or hiking, if they put a feather or fern-type plant on your hat, it will distract the flies. While you might look funny, this allows you to work and hike in peace. Here's my question for you, Paul. How do you prevent horseflies from biting you?
So the issue of preventing an insect from biting a human is kind of a three-dimensional question. There are two main mechanisms you can use to prevent insect from biting a human, and that is one, eliminating the insect altogether, and two, just preventing the insect from biting people. So in the case of preventing insects from biting people, you present a repellent or a chemical that's unattractive to the biting pest that prevents them from feeding on you. Now, the problem is it's been shown that both horseflies and deer flies will completely pursue biting or a host in spite of repellents. And the problem with larvicides is that the bandits lay their eggs along aquatic and semi-aquatic substrates, and thus will drain the insecticides will drain into the aquatic reservoir, thus polluting it. And so, the most effective method of preventing a tabanid from biting is traps. As you mentioned before, deer flies have an unusual attraction to the color blue, and this is the same for horseflies or tabanids in general. They're attracted to the color blue, so you can leave out traps that are characteristically blue, or malaise traps that slow the insect down, and that would be the most effective method of stopping horseflies from biting. My second rebuttal for you is, for all intents and purposes, our flies are virtually the same, save for the deer fly's preferences of biting coasts that are moving. My fly, Tabanus atratus, is a horsefly, and so it prefers non-moving hosts. Regardless, they're roughly the same. So my question for you is, what sets the deer fly apart from the horsefly?
My rebuttal for you, Paul: the deer fly vectors more diseases. There is evidence that deer flies in the western U.S. are involved in the transmission of tularemia, which is also known as deer fly fever, or rabbit fever. Deer flies are minor vectors of tularemia. In equatorial African rainforest, a filarial parasite that causes louses is transmitted by deer flies that inhibit those areas. Repellents and chemical insecticides do very little to deter biting deer flies and hurting the environment and surrounding habitats. Now, going into closing arguments, Paul will give his closing statement first, I believe. Yes.
So in summation, horseflies and deer flies are roughly virtually the same, so it's not an argument of what's the worst pest. It's an argument of which one is more widespread. Because both deer flies and horseflies mechanically transfer bacterium. So Where the deer fly can spread more diseases, the horsefly is more common in numbers. Tabanis atratus can spread spreads a large number of diseases, as well as the fact that it prefers non-moving hosts, and so it attacks a different type of host altogether. And so, in summation, I would argue that they're both virtually the same pest.
My closing argument. I think the deer fly definitely has the worst bite. The females use knife-like blades to make a cut on your skin to get your blood. Ouch! Not only does it hurt, but they go from 4 moving parts, which are harder to get land on. Furthermore, they aim for places located high on the host, such as the neck and the head. Being bitten in the neck or the head is way worse than being bitten on the leg. Furthermore, by swatting it with your hand, you will only agitate deer flies and make them return over and over again. You can distract them by not wearing blue or by wearing a blue feather in your hat while working outside. It might look funny, but if it keeps you from being bitten, then it is worth it. For the reasons stated above, and because deer flies are known to transmit more diseases than horse flies, I believe that the deer fly has the worst bite. Thank you for watching our debate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.